taking a look at the reading 6 review questions. In section 12, Dante makes a surprising claim that to live under a world ruler is to be most free. What reasons does he supply for this claim? What do you think about the claim? Well, of course, what you think about it is what you think about it. But as I said in the video, it's not really clear to me what his logic is. One of the things that he says clearly in that section where he talks about that, section 12, is that people are most free when they exist for their own sake and not for the sake of another. And he's very clear that people who run governments, kings, representatives, government officials, they are there for the people. The people are not there for them. And that a world ruler, what he calls a world emperor, would be there for the sake of the people, not for their own sake, right? He has the belief that under a world government, which at its head would have a world emperor, people would exist most for their own sake. So they would therefore be most free if their being free means existing for your own sake. So, I don't know about the logic there, but I think that's what he says. Number 2, in section 15, Dante says, world government, on the other hand, must be understood in the sense that it governs mankind on the basis of what all have in common, and that by common law it leads all toward peace. And I ask, one of his premises here is that there is something that, quote, all have in common. What do you think of that? Is it true that we all have some things in common? I want to know what you think of that, because I think that that's an incredibly important principle in Dante. If there wasn't something that all human beings had in common, if there wasn't, to say it more strongly, a common human nature which reflected common human values, then none of this would be worth reading. I mean, none of what Dante said would even be plausible, right? There's got to be something like a common humanity, and that there's something that we all have in common. I mean, what are we thinking of? I don't know. I mean, Thomas Aquinas would say that there are common goods that all human beings share in. Let's say the good of family, the good of freedom, the good of knowledge, the good of health, things like that, which are really not so implausible, those things. I mean, he's not thinking that we all like to eat the same food, or that we all speak the same language or watch the same films. He's thinking of these core values that he thinks that we all agree upon. And if that may be wrong, but I think that is what he's saying, right? Which is not a totally wild idea. Number 3, what does Dante mean by concord at the end of section 15? Do you think that such a concord is necessary for a good society? Why or why not? That, I think, is a key question when it comes to politics and political philosophy, and how you really think. That is, do you think that concord, which is basically agreement, we are agreed on certain things, is that really necessary? I mean, it really is. The reason I say it's so important is because it really reflects what your fundamental values are. Do you think that unity is necessary, or do you believe in a plurality? I mean, it really depends. The modern idea of government, really liberal government, I would say doesn't really depend upon this notion of unity and concord. It's more like setting up structures that allow for diversity to occur without chaos. So it really comes, this idea of concord. I mean, you still hear people talk about we have to get together. We have to make common cause. We have to find out where our agreements are. I mean, I don't know, man. It's really, I would say, an open question whether a free society should be a society that values concord, agreement, unity, or one that emphasizes plurality, diversity, and individual freedom.